Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning for Unlock New Claims Efficiencies with laser-focused digital adoption. I'd like to start by saying a really quick thank you to Reuters Events for putting together today's webinar, the first of many claims-focused webinars in the build-up to Connected Claims coming up this year in November the 16th to the 18th, which will be an online event. So look out for more of these webinars as we kind of build up to that wonderful date. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris Franklands. I'm the founder of InsurTech 360, InsurTech Innovators, and the Chief Innovation Officer with CareBridge International. I've spent my entire career building products and solutions that leverage people, process, technology, and data to transform the customer experience. And it's a pleasure to be chatting to you today about the claims journey in particular. For those of you in the industry who know me, you'll know that I'm very passionate about the claims experience. I often talk about the emotional impact that a negative claims journey can have on the insured. The factors driving that negative experience can typically be quite broad, right? So the legacy workflows blighted by friction, poor alignment of data, lack of transparency, all factors that can have a long and reaching and deep impacts, not only on the customer, but also on the carrier brand itself. As customer demand for digital claims offerings skyrocket, insurers are racing to meet that demand, yet carriers cannot risk forgetting about the other side of the insurance customer coin, the claims workforce. With claims being the focal point for insurance innovation and digitization, it's critical that claims teams are given a streamlined and simplified experience as the customers they are serving. A holistic strategy is the definitive efficiency customer satisfaction win-win. I've got with me today a brilliant panel, bringing together a wealth of knowledge across innovation, technology, and customer experience across the industry. We're having a fun conversation today talking about how to use tools with maximum impact, building your strategy around the processes and pain points where they will make the most immediate impact to achieve quick wins for customers and their claims teams. And in thinking about automating to innovate, how can you automate the simple claims? How can you provide your claims teams with a meaningful, challenging experience that simultaneously ensures the customers most in need are given a first-class service? So joining me today, we have Alex Punsalan, the SVP and Global Head of P&C Claims at Assurant. We have Mihir Bhanushali, the Associate Director of Sales at Whatfix, and the wonderful Laurie Pon, Claim Director of the Claims Transformation Team at the Auto Club Group. A quick reminder, please do line up your questions with us after Mihir, Alex, and Laurie have given their thoughts and about the industry and the claims experience. We will be answering questions from you, the audience, so please get those teed up through the chat as we proceed through today's webinar. Kicking off proceedings, we'll be starting with Alex. A quick bio for you, Alex. Based out of Miami, Florida, Alex is accountable for claims, strategic and operational leadership of Assurant's lender-placed insurance, multifamily housing, flood, voluntary, home, auto, and shared economy business lines. With over 25 years of experience, Alex has held leadership roles across multiple lines of business, including executive claim and technology positions with the Hartford, Hanover, Crawford, and Homesite. Alex holds a BS in finance from the University of Connecticut and an MBA from the University of Hartford, as well as having earned the Lean Six Sigma Black Belt designation. Alex is also a retired United States Army officer who served a tour of duty in Operation Iraqi Freedom. Alex, that's a heck of a bio, and welcome today. I'd like to kick off with a question to you. When you're thinking about technology and digital tools, what do your employees expect to see in that space? And kind of, what are you guys doing to help provide tools that improve the employee experience?
Great question. I think when I look at this, I think there's different pockets of employee groups, but the one I'll talk about is our new employees. And by and large, most of these folks are new to the industry. And if you think about the age group of the millennials and the Generation Z, they're all young and they were pretty much born with a phone strapped to their hand. So when you look at that, they're very used to getting their news by Twitter, staying abreast of all the things on their phone, Venmo, Zelle, paying for things. So for them, if you didn't do it, it would kind of be a letdown to having these things of dealing with an old legacy system. And if you think about many of us on the audience, remember that first green screen that many of us worked with. So again, it's critical for all the reasons why we're here, for efficiency, but I think it's the expectation of many of our employees, for the most part, because it makes their job easier. And if you can make their job easier and take away barriers, it's going to lead to satisfaction.
Yeah, that's great. And it's I think what's interesting is that I think through the pandemic, we're seeing kind of a shift, perhaps people working remotely from home, whereby those lines between work life and home life are becoming a little bit more blurred, right? And I think the tools, the solutions that we provide to our own employees kind of need to make their lives as easy as possible. As much as we focus on the customer and we focus on the customer experience, to deliver that customer experience, which is we want to excel, it's about, okay, how do we now provide a better experience for our own employees who may be remote, they might be in the office, that could be a hybrid type thing. Do you have any kind of additional thoughts around that?
No, I think that's the future, right? And I think many companies have adopted already who've returned to work, but I think there's a lot of learnings. But I think the one thing is, with the tools that are out there, the flexibility of the models that will exist, it'll be a variety. So you'll have some folks that will be 100% remote. Mihir is calling in from India today, right? So I'm sure he'll give just as great a presentation if he was there or someplace in Europe. But I think the key is being flexible and having the tools to help support the resources. So some will be full-time in the office and some will be a hybrid position. But I think what it does do is it opens us up to different talent pools that perhaps might not have been able to tap into in the past.
Yeah, no, that's great. And from your point of view, Alex, what are you guys focusing on kind of this year in terms of claims efficiency, productivity, kind of putting those tools together? You're looking at intelligent automation, RPA. What things are you really focused around at the moment?
Yeah, so we're looking at all things digital. I think digital first is a model that we have going on right now to assess it. But I think over the last 3 years, we really invested in digital tools and technology. And I think what we'll focus on in the short term is how do we continue to refine those. So some of the things that continue to develop, for example, just the evolution of things getting faster and better. So when I'll talk about in my remarks, video collaboration, video estimating. We've seen a lot of advancements just in that technology in the last year. So now it's able to take measurements for you. It builds 3D modeling for you. When initially when it rolled out, it was kind of a simple FaceTime conversation. So I think in the short term, we'll see a lot of enhancements on the existing technologies, and we'll be looking to see what pops its head around the corner. So I think the key thing there is those folks who are able to adapt and change quickly will be the winners. So if you think about 18, 20 months ago, who would have predicted the global pandemic? Mm-hmm. But how people have responded to it is the key to success.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I want to highlight your Lean Six Sigma black belt designation. I'm a green belt. I haven't made it to black belt at this point. That's the next phase. But I'm a huge fan of thinking lean and thinking. I'm constantly obsessing over leaning a process, or how can we do things more efficiently and effectively. Is that something that you guys are doing internally with your team? Are you kind of teaching lean, kind of the lean principles? Is that something that as an organization you've seen perhaps people come to that space a little bit more because of the pandemic?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's been a shift because of the pandemic. I think we've shifted and we've had some folks educated in those processes just because we want to improve. And at the nature of things, I think working on process and analytics and numbers is a key driver. So developing talent with those skills is paramount, and it's really a good investment as people grow. But it's not for everybody. So So who are those folks that have the ability to lean in that direction and help them get there? Yeah, I think it's important to leverage people's strengths.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of looking at it. All right, Alex, thank you so much for your comments. Very interesting and enjoyable. And I would just want to remind everybody listening, if you have any questions for Alex, Mihir, Laurie, or myself, please put those into the Q&A as we get through today. We typically end up with quite a few questions, and it's a good opportunity to take advantage of the tremendous knowledge that we have with us today. So up next we have Mihir Bhanushali, who is the Associate Director of Sales at Whatfix. Mihir has spent close to a decade successfully setting up high-performing sales teams in international markets for high-tech SaaS companies and strategy consulting firms. In his current role, he is responsible for Whatfix's North American revenue lines. He, along with his team, has been responsible for onboarding numerous Fortune 100 logos across industries and verticals. Mihir, welcome. So before we kick off with you, I think we're interested in learning kind of more about the digital adoption platforms, right? How they are transforming the concept of training. So what can you tell us about how Whatfix got started working in the insurance space? And perhaps you can kind of talk us through some of your experiences working with insurance customers.
Absolutely, Chris. Appreciate the introduction. This is my first webinar with Reuters, so thanks a lot for having me. And some great insights from Alex, especially around millennials entering the workforce, right? So the one thing that I will really avoid doing here today is talk about the landscape or challenges in this industry, right? I mean, my fellow speakers and the audience on this webinar will probably know a lot more about it than I do, to be honest. Instead, what I would like to share is our story at Whatfix and our experience in insurance in today's world, right? Something that I think the audience would be interested in knowing as well. So we've been around for close to a decade, Chris, and we worked with over 100 prominent Fortune 1000 companies, right? Multiple insurance carriers are a part of this logo list. Now, we had initially not planned to provide our solutions to this space, but what's really exciting about our journey is how we ended up in the insurance space anyway, Chris. So let me actually start with a data point. According to a latest 2020 Businesses at Work report by Okta, on an average, companies today use close to 88 software applications. And when you look at companies specifically in 2,000 employees and above, that number jumps up to 173. So associates, adjusters, they are exposed to over 15 applications on a day-to-day basis. Now, obviously, there's a reason why so many software exist at an organization, right? It helps you to increase productivity, maybe even revenue if it's a claim settlement, claims center or a CRM. But from an employee's perspective, it leads to a lot of digital clutter, right? And one of the biggest challenges with digital clutter is that an employee is not always trained or enabled on how to use all of these applications seamlessly. And in parallel, Alex mentioned millennials entering the workforce. The way employees learn about systems has changed dramatically in the past decade, right? Classroom training is no longer efficient because 60% of it is forgotten within the first 7 days of it being imparted. Learning management system courses, static content, it's only going to get you so far. Inside a PNC carrier, you have multiple core applications, right? You have claims, you have billing, policy center. Now, each of these applications requires an associate to follow state regulations, right? Or internal regulations for that matter, while you are navigating these systems. And training new associates on these systems can be a nightmare because of the longer learning curve and the limited retention of knowledge, plus a remote workforce in today's world is going to compound a lot of these problems, right? So that is why Whatfix was launched. It was launched with the goal to make it easier for employees in the company to use softwares at their disposal. And our founders actually had this idea, Chris, that, what if there was a software that existed just to help insurers navigate these systems on a day-to-day basis? A software that actually gives employees an experience of having somebody at their shoulder, right? That is a subject matter expert that is helping them navigate through performing these complex applications. So that's essentially, the concept of a digital adoption platform. What I'm going to talk about next is how we ended up entering this space. So that's actually a very interesting story. So a couple of years back, we actually had 2 of the top 10 PNC carriers in the United States today reach out to us with some very specific challenges on their claim system. So at a macro level, on your claim system, you're always looking to reduce and control losses and payouts, right? And they wanted to do the same. The way they wanted to do it is they wanted to make sure that, associates are following state regulations very strictly on these softwares, right? And also wanted to ensure that, their associates are complying with insurers' policies and operating procedures. So if they do that, they can reduce and control claim settlement cycles and increase efficiency, and also provide a better experience to their customers, right? So these were a few challenges that, they sort of put on the table to us. And it turned out that this was really up our alley, because we ended up rolling out our product, which is a digital adoption platform, to over 18,000 associates at this carrier. And our technology was actually used to guide associates step by step on workflows such as filing a claim intimation to fraud investigation. So everything. And some of these processes we actually ended up automating. And we also helped them highlight operating procedures. So procedures to ensure proper handling of claims. Providing a reference to a specific state regulation, they don't need to go outside the system. They can actually learn on top of the system doing something like this. So that's something that we help them do. But let's talk about the impact next, right? So we rolled this out to 18,000 associates, and post go live, we actually looked at analytics very closely with them. So now that we've rolled out this new technology that allows insurers to learn in real time, what was the impact of something like this? And we actually realized that even with their most experienced and their tenured associates, we were able to reduce claim cycle time significantly using our product risk. So that's somewhere, where it continued to evolve. So next up, they were talking to us about their sales application. And, we've got 4,000 sales agents. Can you train them on how to use that application better, right? Can we help 5,000 customer service representatives assist policyholders with the right information and ensure that they don't drop off during the renewal or the purchase process, right? So it turns out that the answer to all these questions was yes. And fast forward to today, the tool can integrate with any system that a company uses, and it's used by multiple PNC carriers. But at a high level, Chris, that is our story. And if the audience wants to learn more about links to this efficiency, I'd be more than happy to share some case studies and numbers of the work that we've done for some public carriers in this space. So we work with Sentry Insurance, which is a Fortune 1000 companies. It's one of the largest mutual insurance companies in the US, and our product is actually integrated with their entire PNC suite of applications, guys. So everything from claims to customer, and just off the bat in the first year, we were actually able to end up, freeing resources for them to the tune of approximately $1 million. So that could be put back into profit generating activities. And what we also did, we ended up, because of these numbers, we want to make sure that we validate them, right? That the fact that they become industry standard, we actually worked with an independent third party in Everest Group. So they're a leading analyst company in this space, and we worked with them in their peak evaluation metrics and validated some of these numbers. So this is a case study that they have sort of sanctioned as well, and something that was a big validation for us in terms of the product that we were looking to build. So while this is our story, I want to conclude with my personal experience in this industry, right? So I personally believe that carriers are focused on two things. One, customer experience, right? Extremely important. The second one, driving efficiency and productivity. So I think this is the reason why there is such a strong desire to continue driving core systems innovation, right? To continue driving, automation and process standardization to drive operational efficiencies, which is what we're here to talk about today. But I also believe that operational efficiency is not just about having, the right technology or the right processes, right? It's also about enabling your workforce to be effective and making it easier for them to use the tools and technologies at their disposal so that they can benefit from it, like what Alex mentioned earlier, right? Whether it's a millennial or your most experienced claims rep. So that's sort of my 2 cents for today's session. Chris, over to you.
Mihir, thank you. There's a lot that you covered there, and thanks for the explanation. For people who aren't familiar with the concept of kind of a digital platform such as yours, I think the value there is clear, right? And kind of coming back to the comments that Alex and I made about this blurring of this kind of future digital worker, right? I think the nature of how people work is shifting and changing, and we're trying to make decisions faster with more accurate data, whilst we're kind of taking the kids to school or whatever it might be. We're juggling a lot of different tasks, right, and a lot of different responsibilities. And I think whilst there's still a lot of complexity with the systems and technology hasn't perhaps suddenly waved a magic wand and made that complexity go away. But I think that type of digital assistant where you have something holding your hand, guiding you through that process across what can typically be quite a lot of complex systems and platforms is incredibly valuable. So thank you for sharing that and sharing your thoughts. And I'm sure we'll have some additional questions for you, Mihir, as we get to the Q&A. So wrapping up this morning, Laurie Pon is the Auto Club Group Director of Claims Transformation and the Claims Service Center. I hope I got that right, Laurie. A 20 plus year veteran of the insurance industry. She currently leads the Claims Transformation Technology, Quick Claim Handling and First Notice of Loss Contact Center teams at the Auto Club Group. In this role, Laurie leads claims technology transformation initiatives in addition to First Notice of Loss and fast track auto physical damage and property adjusting teams. Laurie received her BA in Business Administration from Wesleyan College and an MBA from Mercer University. Laurie has earned her PMP designation and is a Six Sigma Green Belt certified engineer. So Laurie, another Lean Six Sigma person with us today. This is awesome. So I'd like to kind of kick things off with you and just kind of ask you about how is the Auto Club Group addressing pain points in the claim life cycle by leveraging innovative technology?
Well, I can tell you 2020 was a busy year. 2020 is shaping up to be even busier. I have a couple of examples where we've employed digital strategies to really address both adjuster churn and customer friction. Some of the things Mihir and Alex were saying, I'm really identifying with multiple systems. And that can, if you're focused on the process, it can really impact your ability to deliver that amazing customer experience. So one of our biggest pain points that we addressed last year was the ease of communication with our customers on their terms. So we really differentiate the claim experience at ACG by offering our customers an array of options to connect with us. And we were really interested in contemporizing the way that we communicate regarding claims. So one of the things that we did is we partnered with an insurtech to pilot bidirectional texting. Data shows that 95% of text messages are opened and responded to within 3 minutes of being delivered. It's truly a game changer in the world of phone tag and email, which doesn't have quite that immediacy. So considering the ease of communication and a strong preference for our customers to text, we put the pilot in place in February, had great results, and then we rolled out the entire platform to 950 users by September. And I led the business readiness for that initiative, and it was a great initiative. One of the things that we're leveraging with our partner is we are managing the opt-in and the welcome message using AI. So a digital assistant, it manages the opt-in, it provides the customer in the first couple of messages with the adjuster contact information and name. And then once we receive consent, we're able to seamlessly get pictures, videos, update proactively throughout the claim lifecycle. We were very enthusiastic about the desktop app. We betaed the mobile app in November, and we rolled out to a pilot group there. And then by December, we had rolled out to our field community. So we're super excited that in the palm of your hand, you now have the capability, even if you're in the field, to very seamlessly communicate with your customers. We're currently beta testing a new upgraded analytics platform. We are super excited about that. We're using AI, or our partner is using AI, to look at all of that treasure trove of data that we have in those SMSs quiz to look at customer sentiment and point out potential positive sentiment so we can reward, which is amazing, and then potentially claims where we might need to make a customer service recovery. I'm seeing great sentiment on our customer side. We published a text of the day in my unit, and I saw one today with emojis where our customer was super excited at our speed of service and our immediacy in our delivery. Our KPIs are showing great improvement. We've seen an NPS gain of over 173 basis points on claims where we text. So the sentiment from our adjusting community, so our user experience is really great and our customers' experience is really great. So we love that win-win. One of the other pain points that was a big project that we got over the finish line last year was our speed to payment. I think everyone can agree that a happy claim is a closed claim. And so we were really looking at expanding the flexibility of our payment options, specifically in the virtual world. So one of our aspirations was to deliver a very flexible, convenient, and fast claim option to our customers. So we began by spending a great deal of time in 2018 with a large US bank. We outlined our requirements, both from our financial customer and end user perspective. It wasn't until we got into the system testing phase that we realized that the bank could not support our approval requirements on multiple party checks. A lot of our claims involve two parties. So I think that a lot of gifts and lessons can be learned through failures. So as we know in claims, we definitely need to have that approval process available so that everyone that's party to the check has an opportunity to review and approve. So what we did is we pivoted. We partnered with a partner in the fintech space that really understood our use cases, has deep experience in the nuances of claim payments. We soft launched virtual payments in November for a segment of our vendor community and some of our adjusters. And that allowed us to vet our processes, our financial interfaces, our training, and really helped inform our complete rollout. We were lucky to get our virtual payment interface in place for all of our users by December, right in the middle of December. So we had a really busy year last year. About a third of our total payments we've had about 75 days in production. And we're seeing a third of our total payments being virtually delivered. And one of the things that we're really proud of is our speed to payment with virtual is 66% faster. And we're reducing 6 business days in getting that payment over the fence. And NPS continues to be really positive with the speed of virtual payment, especially on total loss. So we're really proud of those results.
That's phenomenal. I mean, those are really incredible metrics, right? And I think, yeah, I mean, that's you know, it sounds like you're removing a lot of the friction from the process, Laurie. And you know, I think I'm always fascinated by the sentiment side of things, right? I think being able to proactively interpret and understand the customer on that journey, and you know, being able to respond in a timely manner instead of after the fact when the negative feedback comes to the fore, right? We want to be able to handle those things proactively on that journey. So no, that's tremendous. And I think, you know, hearing the success that you've had with SMS, I think is also really exciting. I think that's a channel that you know, I particularly enjoy using, and I think, you know, along with WhatsApp and some other, you know, kind of messaging approaches, I think that's perhaps an area where carriers are starting to move more aggressively towards, where you can kind of, you know, start to handle the FNOL process a little bit more effectively. Since we have you on the platform, I have a question from the audience, Kevin Smith. Laurie, do your claim employees text with just first-party claimants, insureds, or also with third-party claimants?
We will text with third-party claimants. I mean, there are certainly use cases where I'm trying to set up an inspection. I need to confirm the status of the claim. So we're using it on the liability side and the first-party side to great effect. Now, it's always the adjuster's discretion. We have guiding principles that when we rolled out our platform, where we gave some advice to our team on what makes sense to communicate via text, but we are using it for both, and even medical claims as well. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Another question for you, Laurie. You're popular here. From Arjun Vijay, the speed of virtual payment is a very good metric to look at. From a cost perspective, what savings has the digital payment service delivered to ACG?
So our payment process, when we were basically paper check based. So we don't have the mailing fees. We don't have the admin around trying to chase the check. We had a lot of expediting of checks. There was churn, even from just the adjuster time commitment around claims where our customer really wanted the money in hand. So what we're seeing is a lightning fast speed if our customers are loading their payments onto their debit card. ACH, depending on the bank that we're working with, is different, but we have moved some of those pieces to our fintech partner. And so we're seeing great sentiment from our finance peers. We're able to balance, and it's been pretty seamless. And the printing piece, we even mail on Saturdays. So we're very leaned in to moving towards these virtual channels because the cost to cut a paper check is very, very extensive. So we're really, really pleased with the virtual experience and the NPS and the customer sentiment and just the adjuster friction and the phone calls around where's my payment. We're really very happy. And even in states where we have an inspection and say we're working with a repair shop and they want the payment before the car is released, we're able to expedite it. And that just saves a lot of churn on both the customer side, the adjuster side, and even our vendor partner side.
Yeah, no, that's massive. That's massive. I mean, do you foresee, for customers able to receive virtual payments, do you foresee moving to kind of a 100% virtual payment solution for those customers at some point, or is that?
Well, we're a member organization, so the customer's king. We believe in the power of choice, and some of our customers still prefer a paper check, and we want to be able to resonate. In our current dashboard, I don't see that as an item that we're going to fire right away, but I think we're going to look, and as it attrits, does it make sense to move to a virtual model? That's certainly something we'll have to contend with, but not all of our customers are quite comfortable in that virtual setting quite yet and providing either debit or their MICR line, but we're seeing heavy adoption and we're really, really excited.
Hey, Chris, I'll just chime in. During the pandemic, that was one of the great accelerators. So pre-pandemic, we were seeing about a 30% digital payment adoption rate. During it increased to over 70%. Real simple. Getting money in the hands of our insureds quicker. But the other piece is, we saw delays in the postal system, but we also saw our insureds not wanting to go to the bank, right? So wanted to maintain those social distancing. And we even identified the segments, it was all ages across the board. So I think as we add, Venmo, Zelle, and other easier means that has more adoption, I think you'll see that number drive to the high 80s or 90s. To Lori's point, I don't think it'll ever get to 100 because there's always some folks that are out there, but all population groups are anxiously awaiting to get the money quicker.
Alex, just to add in, we're seeing a heavy adoption in our virtual inspection experiences because you were mentioning the ability to capture your own images for your home or your car. And pre-pandemic, we saw less of a throughput when we sent out the SMS to load up your photos, and we're seeing a much higher adoption rate. So we're even seeing it more in just that virtual payment sphere. We're seeing it even offering those safe virtual inspection experiences. We've seen a 2,200% increase in our mobile claim submissions. So when you talk about automating for innovation, we're seeing that across different channels, which is really exciting.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Mihir, I'd love to bring you into this conversation because we're talking a lot about technology. We're talking a lot about, kind of fintech, insurtech type platforms, solutions that a lot of workers are not going to be all that familiar with or comfortable with, right? How can we use a tool like yours, a solution like yours to say, okay, across the workforce, we perhaps may not have the bandwidth to train people as extensively as we want to. How can we use technology to do that more effectively?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Chris. So see, one of my experiences with this industry is that there is a lot of digital transformation happening, right? I mean, Alex and Lori have just mentioned a few of the initiatives that they are leading. But once these systems are deployed, you need technology to make sure that users are adopting to technology. And that is where I feel a digital adoption platform or any system of engagement adds a lot of value. I mean, once you've deployed a solution for your customers, wherein they're not ready to come into a bank, but you're exposing them to a system where they are going to go in and they are going to, file these claims or basically complete these business processes. And that is essentially when you can't really, rely on the fact that they will go through documentation on how to do it, right? You can use a real-time layer of help to help them do it in production. So that's basically my 2 cents around, how we can bring in technology to, make something like this seamless.
Yeah, no, I think from the adoption point of view as well, right? I mean, even looking forwards, when you have that type of platform in place, it makes it easier to adopt new technology and kind of adopt new platforms. And Mihir, I'm sure people are kind of wondering, how straightforward is it to deploy a digital adoption platform, and what does that look like? How much knowledge, how much what type of skill set is required to do that?
That's actually a great question, Alex. So our technology is actually a no-code platform. So it typically resides, let's say if it's a claims deployment, it would reside in a claims L&D team or a claims excellence team. So, if you know technology like, Word and PowerPoint, you'll be able to use a product like this. You just need to have subject matter expertise on the actual process itself for which you built the technology. So that's effectively how simple it is to deploy a product like this.
And in terms of applications that it works with Mihir, I mean, is it kind of, are you compatible with all or most kind of technology platforms out there?
That's a great question, Chris. So I actually noticed a question in the chat that says that, you mentioned over 100 software that are potentially, at a company. I mean, is that a bit stretched? So the thing is, there are applications outside of claims as well, right? So as an employee, I'm probably, logging into an HCM system to file a leave or, process my reimbursements and stuff. So the beauty of this platform is that it's agnostic to any sort of application. So it can be used on CRM systems, on customer portals, billing centers, policy portals, claims portals, etc. So really does not matter what application you deploy it on. I mean, if you want to book tickets to a Lakers game, go to axs.com. You'll see our self-featured there as well. So that's just a few examples of what we can potentially help with.
Very good, very good. Thanks for explaining that. It's an exciting part of the technology space for sure. So, a question to everybody, and Alex, we can kick off with you. Kind of a fairly high level question that I think the sort of thing people often are very curious about. What do you see currently as perhaps the top 2 to 3 challenges that carriers are dealing with when it comes to claims efficiency?
Yeah, I think the challenge is it's speed, right? So people are thirsty and hungry, and they have those expectations for instantaneous claims handling, right? So people call in, and you think about the massive storm that just hit Texas, right? Thousands upon thousands of people looking for instant payment. So in order to address and handle that, one of the key things that we focused on is how can we shift that and provide self-service. So think about self-service today, giving people the ability to handle their own claims. 5-10 years ago, who would have ever guessed that? But today, on small pockets of claims, we're giving self-service opportunities to our insured, for example, renters theft claims, to input the facts of the loss, input the items that were lost, stolen, or damaged. We estimate those items in the system. We've got this fraud algorithm running in the back from developed with artificial intelligence, telling us whether or not we can trust the claim, looking at all these other items that, hey, how long has the policyholder been around? How many losses have they had? What's the value of this claim? They can input their all the different things, receipts, the police reports, and then put in their payment information and have their claim settled within a matter of minutes. And all the work was shifted to the insured in dealing with them when they wanted to be dealt with. So, hey, maybe they're working all day and they can't call in and take the time to talk to a claims adjuster. So now when they're at home or on the weekend, they can do it on their schedule. So, hey, they're happier. It's on their dime, their schedule. They're doing some of the lifting for us about that claims process, making it much more efficient for us, having a win-win situation there. The other piece of that is that we can't pay everybody straight through because it'd be real easy to give out a a checkbook to everybody to write their own checks, and we'd go out of business real quick. But the other piece of that is leveraging all these tools. We're having them do all the work, and then at the end, it might have gotten kicked out because there was a discrepancy on the contents item that they put in. A simple, quick phone call from an adjuster can resolve that issue and to push it to conclusion. So leveraging those tools is key to help change in the environment that people are becoming expected to do. So think about it. Online banking. I'll ask the audience, how many of you have been into a bank in the last year? Right? Probably none of us, but we're all really adept at using our phones and transferring money, depositing checks. People are becoming very much useful at these software applications.
Yeah, I think those are really valid points, Alex. And I think, even the more complex, I think, when you're thinking about the banking analogy, I think it was at some point, the more complex cases, you might go to the bank, right, to speak to the manager, or you might have to kind of have some form of personal contact there. And I think banking, especially, it is obviously moving rapidly towards becoming fully digital. And I think insurance with claims, obviously, the emotional part of that journey, absolutely, I think there's a lot of, and Laurie, you spoke about it at length as well, the kind of the move towards the end-to-end automated claims journey and experience, and perhaps that's where things are headed. But Alex, you also make a very good point about having that ability to speak to somebody if and when needed, right, and being able to pick up a phone, being able to talk to somebody and that for me is kind of a science, right? Being able, knowing when and where to use technology versus when and where to use people becomes a bit of an art form and a science. And Laurie, what are your thoughts around that, kind of the top two or three things that you're seeing in the claims experience space?
Well, I'm really identifying with what Alex said and what you said. I think that we're focused on not necessarily no touch, low touch, straight through. We're focused on the right touch, and that's really important to us, delivering empathy at scale, delivering amazing experiences. That's what we're really focused on. And I think you can talk about DL, ML, IoT, and all of these buzzwords, but we're trying to figure out what is the right package of solutions. There's not unlimited, or there's finite development resources, finite time. And so what's that right package of opportunities that we and resources that we can offer our staff and our customers to interact with us? And that's what we're really focused on and honed in on. And that voice of the customer for both our staff and our end customers, and delivering at that moment of truth. Truth is everything for us. And as a membership organization, to Alex's point, we want to be able to offer those options across the claim life cycle. So, I mean, we're looking at cool stuff like computer vision and completely digital experiences, but those are some of the things that we have a very clear digitization strategy. We have a prioritization matrix, and we look at complexity, we look at benefit, and amidst those different priorities, we're able to as objectively as you can, try to focus all these things that are coming at us, because they're, every day you look at something cooler. So that's kind of how we approach it as a team.
Yeah, no, that's I love that, and I think right touch is a great way of looking at it, and it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy to know when to leverage a kind of an automated chatbot versus having somebody there to speak with an insured and kind of take them through that emotional journey. Mihir, over to you, mate. When you're thinking about platforms and what you guys are doing, are you helping to optimize sometimes existing landscapes? Are you, where do you play in that field?
Absolutely, Chris. So the way we look at automation is that it's all about personalization. So if I am, let's say, again, a claims associate who's based in California, specifically for auto, then all of the training content that I am consuming on that application needs to be personalized to me. I should have state reference guides that allow me to file a claim, automation to an extent where, let's say, if I'm in a car accident, I'm probably looking to, not replace, but maybe renew. So stuff like that, right? At a base level is something that our automation or personalization can, help with. But this is actually very interesting, right? Because the automation, it's not necessarily in terms of upskilling the workforce, but just upskilling your actual technology itself with the help of a third party to make sure that it is more relevant to your associates. So that's the idea behind how you can potentially, look at automation first before saying that it's a new skill that, this industry needs to upskill into.
Yeah, I think, kind of augmenting your team with the right piece of technology is massive, is absolutely massive. And I think, again, that's with the pandemic, I think that has become perhaps more apparent than ever before, when people are juggling so many responsibilities and perhaps wearing many hats these days, right? I think a lot of people are finding themselves wearing a lot of different hats. Laurie, a question to you from Christopher Jones. What are you using to measure customer sentiment?
Data is king. We use a lot of information. We specifically survey our customers. So we have a partner, and there is an amazing visualization that we have available. We can look and dive into the components that factor into our NPS. Did we answer your questions timely? Did we set expectations properly? Did we explain our settlement? Were we empathetic and engaging? So literally there are scores along that horizon, and we're able to partner with our managers to provide that just-in-time coaching. Rewards, we're very into rewards at ACG for exemplary delivery. And then on the texting side, we have this great new tool where we're taking all the SMS data and looking at keyword searches, working with our vendor partner to dial in that algorithm. So we love that tool because it allows us to be informed and actionable. There are other widgets in that great visualization that tells me, did my adjusters log in? What's their speed to contact when they get incoming messages? So we're continuing to refine and tweak, but that's one of the ways that we're measuring sentiment. And it's just been very helpful to help direct our coaching and development.
Oh, very good, very good. And Mihir, that kind of makes me think of something, and I don't know whether this is something that kind of falls into the DAP realm, but are you providing any feedback, insight, dashboards around how people are using products and platforms?
Absolutely, that's a great point, Chris. It's so important for management to know whether the trading that agents are consuming is helpful for them or not, right? So definitely there is a mechanism built in where something as simple as an update to a policy and a change management was rolled out. Now you want to know how effectively it was rolled out. You can run a survey. You can do an NPS for your customers as well. On your customer poll saying, you just filed a claim intimation, how was your experience and what can we help you with? So the product can allow you to collect all of this data, so it can actually come back saying, hey, I found this process to be, a bit difficult, right? And I wish there were lesser, there was lesser navigation, and a lot of this could have been just, automated for me. So absolutely, the product's got a feedback mechanism built in. In fact, that's what we use to track productivity or reducing cycle times, Chris. So we rolled it out to tenure associates first, just to see how quickly or how frequently they give us feedback on, hey, I was doing this in a particular way. Now with your tool, it's much quicker, and that's my feedback. So just a couple of examples of how we can build something like this in.
Yeah, no, that's incredibly valuable. Incredibly valuable. So we have a question from Beth. This is a great question, and I think something that companies perhaps are often challenged with initially. How are you engaging your total workforce to garner excitement versus caution in accepting these new technologies, new solutions, new strategies? Alex.
I'll take that one. That's a great one. I think it's all about change management. I think a lot has to do with continually talking about the initiative, explaining what it is well in advance of when you put it on their desk, and answering questions and reservations. So for example, one of the things that we rolled out last year for our field staff was a fully automated iPad that was cell enabled so that they could have their desktop anywhere they went. We really changed our whole claims process. Our expectation is now that on 50% of the claims, our field adjusters will write the estimate on site, issue the digital payment, and be done with it. So think about that. You know, there's a variety of folks that have been doing this for a long time that will not necessarily want to get rid of that yellow pad of paper and the tape measure. But when you bring all those tools to their desktop or their iPad and give them the tool, the key selling point is, how does it make their job easier, right? So when they're on site and they can give you your payment, but also explain the entire estimate right there with you, you're going to eliminate all those phone calls later. But traditionally, what would happen in the estimating process is they'd write it down on their yellow piece of paper, their yellow pad. They'd go home at the end of the day, maybe talk to their family, have dinner, and then they'd pull it out at night. And then they try and remember what they did and where everything aligned. But here, we were giving them efficiency by taking those extra tasks away from them at night and handling it in a nice big bow, driving satisfaction, efficiency, and service for the customer. So that one-touch handling may not be appropriate for every claim, but our objective is to make sure on the ones that fit, you're not going to have to deal with that later. You know, it's not another phone call that you got to return. Remember, the last thing that a field adjuster wants to do when he's up on a roof, you know, is answer his cell phone, you know, and all too often we see them do that. So it gives them the ability to close things up right on the spot, have a detailed, direct conversation with the insured, and make sure that they're satisfied. It's not easy, you know. People weren't jumping up and down saying, "Hey, we want this iPad, we want this thing." But when they recognize and realize that it's going to make their jobs easier, they're willing to use it. And that ties back to the whole SMS piece as well. Getting the consent from the insured to use it, because we can show them how it makes their job easier, eliminates that phone tag. So often, and it wasn't all that long ago, when a third of the phone calls that we received into our center were, "Hey, where's my money?" And we always send out a text, "Hey, $2,500 was deposited in your account yesterday." Phone calls gone, people happy, you know, and whether or not you wanted that money or wanted to know, you found out about it in a non-invasive manner, quick and simple, right?
Great example. Laurie, what are your comments on that?
Well, we're enabling the business to really adopt new ways of working and ensuring awareness by really leaning into our OCM efforts. Specifically, in 4Q, we had several sprints. We invested in a best-in-class OCM platform that allows us to capture major impacts. What plans are we going to have to address those impacts, specific change events that we're planning to help address proactively any business readiness issues. We're engaging in something called micro OCM sessions. So this is a small group of stakeholders where we can elicit these deep conversations. And this was an idea I had because we used to have these big meetings with all of our different stakeholders, and we weren't really getting as much value, I think, out of the unique needs of each of our stakeholder groups. And then one of the things that we're doing is we really value inclusivity. We're introducing technology early, sometimes in pilot, sometimes smaller scale, to a group of our end users called digital agents. It could be all the way from the contact center to the field adjuster and the desk adjuster to help us vet a solution prior to go live. We're able to vet our job aids, and then we're able to leverage our DA team to provide real-time support. And then we're failing faster, succeeding faster, and pivoting where necessary. And then we're going back in, we're doing pulse surveys, we're doing focus group sessions. We even did a rosebud thorn session with our digital agents and our adjusters post go live. So we have a bunch of different strategies that we're using, trying to dial in how can we best prepare the business and improve adoption and the success of our digital initiatives or projects in general.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's you know, agile thinking at its finest, I think. Mihir, coming back to you on this point, I think when it comes to adopting new technologies and kind of getting people up to speed and feeling comfortable with the environment and kind of this deluge of technology, I mean, obviously, I think this is probably an area where you guys are quite effective at being helpful.
Absolutely, Chris. So I think from our experience, because this is a new way of making sure that employees are learning about systems, it's extremely important to make sure that they are not overwhelmed. So I'll give you an example. So let's say if you are running automation on the front end of an application, you want to make sure. So when we started doing this with carriers, one of the first feedback that we got was, hey, we've got adjusters who are a bit worried because they're used to actually performing these processes, and now on the screen they're seeing it's automated for them, right? So you don't want it to go down that route. So we had to find a way in which you find a sort of a middle ground, right? And that middle ground is telling them that, hey, we just automated this for you. You can go ahead and change this if needed as well, but we've sort of taken care of it for you. So there's so many different examples. So one of our carriers, when they launched the product out, they actually named it after the company itself. So it was like XYZ Assistant. And, there was a newsletter that was sent to the employees saying, hey, if you see something on these applications, which is something that you've not seen before, here is what it's going to help you to do. We help them name the assistant. We help them to actually then point them out, say, okay, you need to go in here if you want to do the 10, 15 things. And we help them to do that with our product itself, right? Messaging that goes in the form of, scheduled pop-ups, etc. We tracked how frequently they log into these systems and then give them the right set of tasks to go in so that they could, adopt to these technologies a bit more seamlessly. So I think that's very important, being cognizant of how the industry or the employee at your organization is used to doing training and supplementing it rather than, claiming that, hey, this is how it's going to be and this is the best way to do it, because that's not the right way to potentially execute something like this, Chris.
Oh, that's great. That's great insight and context, Mihir. Thank you. 5 minutes to go. My goodness. So I guess one. That's what we have time for another question, and it's a classic kind of build versus buy one. So as we're all kind of moving very quickly towards a digital first workplace and kind of insurance environment, Laurie and Alex, how do you decide when to use kind of your internal tech resources versus external, and do you often see some pushback internally around that?
Yeah, very, very close with our IT team, and they want to do all the great, exciting things that are out there. They have the capability and the skill set. They can do it, and they've demonstrated that to us time and time again. But when we're venturing out into new territory, when you're talking about artificial intelligence or digital payments, you really want to partner up with somebody who has the experience, because not only do they bring the experience of that field, they also bring the experience of working with many other carriers in the industry and learning from failures and learning from things that didn't work. So having you learn when other people did or did not do well, you're kind of getting an advantage. So I think, I know our internal IT teams could do all of this stuff. But I think for us, it's one of those things, work with sometimes on these items, a specialist who has developed a core competency and a skill set with that. And we've done that. We've done that with our artificial intelligence fraud modeling, working with external vendors. We do that with our photo estimating, working with external vendors. We could build that, but it would take a little bit of time, but leveraging those folks that have spent a lot of time, money, and investment getting to the place they are today.
That's a great answer, Alex. Laurie?
Go ahead, Laurie.
I agree with Alex. We collaborate really effectively with our IT partners, and I think that we're subject matter experts, claim handling, and our insurance systems. And I think the beauty of smart partnering is you have a partner that's really invested a lot of time and is hyper focused on a specific area like SMSing, right? We could have stood up SMSing, but we're partnered with an insurtech that really understands the insurance space and is continuing to iterate and add on to their platform. And they're hyper focused in that area. So we take a look at what's our capability, limited budget, time, scope, and where does it make sense to smart partner, and where we're also blending our IT team in because we need APIs and different services. So they're involved, but we're making those decisions based on our core competency, and then our ability to continue to iterate that amazing innovation. That's where I think the smart partnering helps, because they're hyper focused.
Brilliant. Thanks, Laurie. Thank you. Mihir, anything to add?
That's a great point. And my experience is coming from selling software to some of these larger enterprises, right? So there's always the question, hey, should we build this or do something like this internally? I think the one thing that I always recommend companies that I talk to is this a common problem, right? what you are looking to build right now, is this a common problem that is faced across the industry or for your company specifically, right? So you start from that, and then you decide, whether this is technology that you want to build or outsource to. Is this something that is core to the industry that you are in, right? And would you want to end up spending time on it, especially when, there may be an SME or a subject matter expert or category available in order to, execute this? So that's basically, again, my advice on the build versus buy side of things. I've been on the other side. So that's my 2 cents, Chris.
Thank you, Mihir. Thank you so much, and I think some wise words there. And I've also been on both sides of the coin. I spent 3 years at a carrier, so I've kind of seen the perspective from both ends. And I think collaboration is obviously kind of the key thing that comes out of it. And Laurie, you mentioned kind of experimenting, being able to move quickly, move, partner quickly, right? Partner effectively, experiment, fail forwards, all of the things we hear lots and lots about. So look, I'd like to say thank you to all of you. This has been a really fun discussion. I hope we get to do it again. The claims journey is one that every time I speak with a carrier and kind of a technology firm like yours, Mihir, it's there's so much optimism around it, because I think we're moving in the right direction. We're kind of we're doing things at scale, but we're still kind of opening the door for that human touch and compassion and empathy, which I think is critical to any claims successful claims experience. We are out of time. A quick reminder: November the 16th to the 18th is the Connected Claims online event this year with Reuters event. So get signed up and registered for that. Look out for more details as we get closer to the date. And thank you everybody for listening and joining in. And thank you, Mihir, Laurie, and Alex. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Cheers.